What did it look like? Well, it was scary because the whole time we were questioning ourselves. We were like, oh my gosh, did we make the right decision? Do we need to go back? It's a borrowed on audience. That's not your audience. You don't know their customers, or you want to get into retail. You have to be careful because they will undercut retailers. They might have said something that made sense, but they didn't show it. And the whole time, Amazon keeps sending you purchase orders from Vendor Central. They're like, hey, why don't you take this juicy, $250,000 PO as you're drawing down lower and lower. And you really have to be like, no, I know what we're doing. This makes sense.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Two Ecomm Experts podcast. It's Viktor from Markademics, and I'm excited because we have today our guest, Matthew Gohl from Santevia. He is now promoted to be the new CEO of Santevia Water Systems. He's joining us all the way from Vancouver, Canada. Thank you for joining, Matthew. And if you can describe yourself in 2 to 3 sentences for the people that still don't know you, what would you say?
Sure, thank you. Thanks for having me first. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be on the podcast. Describe myself in 2 to 3 sentences. Well, I'm a big skier. I like to ski. I like to do backcountry skiing specifically. I love building products. I'm definitely more product focused. And I, actually came from a background of computers, and I was a developer for a little while, working in the commodity trading space for a while in Europe, in London, and jumped out of that and then went to build an agritech business actually in Vancouver in the cannabis space. Cannabis was legalizing, and so I built an agritech company here with a few friends, and I call that my master's degree. So that was just such a great experience, and now I'm into water filtration and building a brand here at Santevia.
Nice. And if you can describe what Santevia is doing, how can you describe it for the people that still haven't used it?
Sure. Yeah, so Santevia, we're a health and wellness brand. What we do is we make water filtration products. And the cool thing about our water filtration products that a lot of other water filtration products do not do is we're filtering contaminants like everyone else. However, we then actually add minerals back to the water. So all of our filters have these 2 stages. The first, filtering out contaminants like lead, chlorine, and many other contaminants. But then we have a second stage of filtration, which is adding back the good things that you do want in your water. So we add back calcium, magnesium, potassium, and lots of other trace minerals. And so what that does is it makes it a lot better for you. You wouldn't go to the grocery store and buy food that had no minerals in it. So why are you drinking demineralized water? And another thing is it tastes a lot better. So when you add minerals back in just the right quantities, it makes the water taste really good. And so we're trying to encourage people to drink more water. It's one of the foundational things of your health. One of the best things you can do for your health is actually just cutting out all this crap that you're drinking. If you're drinking drinks that have a lot of high fructose corn syrup or sugar in it, aspartame, if we can transition many people away from these caloric drinks, these calorically dense drinks, and to water, it would be phenomenal for your health and for the health of just the population generally.
That's amazing, and honestly, that's a great start to the episode because from what I read, you start off in 2008. Then you launched the website in 2010. You weren't back then in the company yet. But how does a business like Santevia that builds products like this from a typical retail business? I can see you being everywhere around the country or even around the world with your products. How do you decide to transition to D2C and selling online, and what's the process in that?
Totally, yeah. Well, actually, I was around in 2008, if you can
Oh,
believe
okay.
it. Yeah, so I was younger, but Santevia is actually my family business. So I've
Okay.
been around ever since the beginning. And so I
Okay.
saw my mother and father started the business, and they really actually started Santevia because of a health issue. David,
Okay.
my stepfather actually, he had chronic acid reflux, and he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Unfortunately, David, you're going to have to go on medication for the rest of your life." And so my mother, she said, I don't think that's actually correct. I think there might be some lifestyle aspects happening here.
Yep.
So what she did actually was she did some research, and they found out that actually by changing what you eat, what you do, and how much you are drinking, water specifically, you can actually overcome this acid reflux, this chronic acid reflux. And there's peer-reviewed research that shows actually making these lifestyle changes are just as effective as taking these proton pump inhibitors, which are pharmaceutical medications. So they made these changes. They went to the grocery store. It wasn't so hard to find better foods. Going to the gym took a little bit of a kick in the pants as it can. It was difficult to commit.
Yeah.
David did commit, and we were actually just talking before the episode of the big bike race that I did, the Grand Fondo. David actually participated in that race with me, which was huge for him. And lastly was water. So you need to drink more water, and specifically mineralized water, alkaline water. And they found that actually it's hard to source that. You can find it in bottled water,
Yeah.
but it's expensive. And so that's really how Santevia came to be. They found a product overseas in Japan, and they used the core technology of that product to create something that would be palatable for the Canadian market, which is where we launched in Vancouver in 2008. And the rest is history. And you're right, we did actually start in retail. So we started with a distributor here in Vancouver called EcoTrend. And so EcoTrend has a whole network across Canada of these small retail stores, natural health food stores, and they're usually one-door chains. So, your small neighborhood shop that might sell supplements, health and wellness products generally. And so they brought the first product that we had, which was called the Gravity Water System. It's still our flagship product today, to the proprietor, the CEO of EcoTrend, John, and said, hey, is this going to be a good product for you? And he wasn't so sure, but they put it into one store as a test, just a test market, and they gave this store 6 units. And Dolly, the owner of this store, that's called Wellspring Health, she actually phoned at the end of the week and said, "I'm completely sold out. I need more."
Okay.
It's the product that I've been looking for. Everybody's interested in.
So from day one, people like there was a need to the market that you didn't need to build on your own. So people were already looking for similar products.
Yes and no. It's if we were to go and try and sell the Gravity Water System at Walmart, no, it wouldn't have done very well.
Okay.
However, product market fit and the market happened to be health and wellness enthusiasts, and those people shop at small health and wellness stores, and so it was a good fit. The product was a good fit for the market that we were entering. So David and Yvonne were very lucky to have found just a great market right away, and that's really how we built, was from retail. But then the transition to digital, right? Like back in 2010 when we turned on our website, e-com wasn't a huge thing. I remember I would work summers as I was going to school at Santevia, and one of the jobs that I would do shipping and receiving, sending out these e-com orders, which was novel and new. I'd pack them up and bring them over to the post office and send them all across the country. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever, because I could see that this was going to be a big thing. This was like. I grew up playing video games as a kid, and I would play on a dial-up connection, right? The phone would ring and your game would stop working.
Oh yeah, I remember those times actually. Like I do remember those times. It was a crazy time. Now when I tell like my colleagues that are Gen Zs, very young Gen Zs about it, and they're like looking like, oh, so you didn't have 5G?
Yeah, exactly, right? No, like in fact, online gaming wasn't even a thing, right?
Yep.
And kind of along the same vein, the people with money, the boomer generation, right? They were actually very hesitant to shop online, and so there wasn't a big market for it. The number one thing that we would get on when somebody would phone into the customer service line is they would say, is it safe for me to put my credit card onto your website? And we'd say, yeah, it's completely safe, but they would say, oh, I would prefer to give my credit card number to you directly over the phone.
Yeah.
Which is
Which is
obviously
crazier.
the less safe
Which
thing
is
to do because you don't know who you're
like
talking to, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
But they're
So
used to this. Yeah. Okay, so you launched the website back in 2010. It's immediately an e-com brand. It's immediately not just a brand website, but you sell there, correct?
yes, yep, yeah. It's an
Okay.
e-commerce
And
website. We built it on BigCommerce. Actually, when we first started, it was Joomla, I think. Actually, even before BigCommerce. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It was
Okay.
yeah, very old. Yeah, and
Yeah, I mean,
WordPress.
back in the days.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of
Okay.
people still use WordPress though. I mean,
Yeah.
I like WordPress, but that was the start. So we kind of had dipped our toes in the water, and we grew as our brand grew, and we saw year on year growth in ecom. And what we noticed is that the customers who would purchase in e-commerce would come back and shop on e-commerce again because they liked the experience. They started to see that e-commerce is reliable, it's very efficient. You don't have to go in, and I think actually Amazon really helped to spur a lot of the move towards e-commerce. eBay
Yeah.
too,
eBay, yeah.
definitely for sure. eBay,
Yeah.
but Amazon just made it go completely mainstream. And so I've seen our sales really scale as you see Amazon's, marketplace business scaling. Customers are just super comfortable shopping online, and the infrastructure to support that has grown tremendously, especially over since 2019 when we all went into the pandemic and everybody went online. Just we've kind of pulled forward 3 or 4 years of e-commerce growth. But that transition really helped because we wouldn't have been able to invest as much as we did in digital without that retail backbone. And so it was that retail backbone which was really supporting our business, which allowed us to learn enough to become kind of create this persistent business in the e-commerce space.
I
So we
feel
tried
like
some
now
things.
brands are trying to do the opposite, and it's like a really hard transition. Well, retail brands that are used to the normal shopping experiences, I would say, they really have a way lighter like way of like entering the ecom world. Because like you have like just better foundations into like business in general and like understanding human psychology better. And I suggest that you still do retail, right? You're not an ecom only brand, right?
Yeah, no, we
So what's the
40% of our business
percentage
is
like
retail. Yeah.
for a brand like yours? How much is coming from the offline market and how much is coming from the ecom world?
So we do about 60% of our sales online and
Okay.
40% in retail. So we have quite a mature retail base
Yeah.
in Canada, and we're trying to build that in the United States right now too. The thing I like about retail is that it's very distributed. And so, let's say you're an Amazon seller and Amazon changes a policy that is not fortuitous for your business. Maybe they increase the fulfillment costs of one of your
Yeah.
items. That can make or break your business. And you have to really remember that when you're using these third-party marketplaces, especially Amazon, a great example, it's a borrowed on audience.
Yeah.
That's not your audience. You don't know their
Yeah.
customers. You're not doing the customer service for the most part. So that's a board audience. However, when you have this direct to consumer relationship, that's fantastic. You own that audience. And when you are working in retail, there's so many different retail locations, and each one of those retail locations has a proprietor, and each one of those proprietors is running their own business. And so it's very resilient to shocks in the marketplace, and you're not kind of always wondering what Amazon's going to come up with next month.
Yeah.
But you're right. You kind of had mentioned like, people do, brand owners go into e-com first now, and then retail comes second, and it was completely opposite. You used to go into retail, and trade shows I think used to be way bigger too, and then you'd get into e-commerce, and e-commerce is cool because it's higher margin for sure. You don't have a
Yeah.
distributor. You don't, in the way you don't have a retailer's cut in the way.
To a degree, you can say that Amazon is your distributor that's cutting your margins to a degree.
For
Like that.
sure, yeah. Yes, the margins are similar. I actually at scale with Amazon, it's somewhere in between retail margins and distributor margins. It's not
Yeah.
quite as low as distributor margins, but there's a lot more work involved when we're working with Amazon. And not only that, but Amazon is becoming more pay to play. If you really want to excel on Amazon, you have to pay for advertising. And that advertising, if you don't know what you're doing, is very expensive. You really have to watch your cost per acquisition. You really have to watch your return on ad spend. And you have to think about the margin profile of the product that you're selling. How much margin can you sacrifice? And is there a recurring sale there? Water filtration is the business that we're in. So we can spend more heavily on a platform to get that first platform into market, because we know that there's going to be that recurring relationship with the customer, and we know that they're going to come back, and so there's a higher degree of organic traffic coming back to our products. And there's tons of products like that. Like supplement space is a great example.
Yeah.
Typically, when somebody buys a supplement, like a protein powder or multivitamin, they're going to continue to purchase from that brand if they like the product and they enjoy the experience. And so you can pay more heavily for that first customer acquisition. So you really have to think about the type of business you're wanting to run and the type of product you want to sell.
And you mentioned that you're like 60% right now selling online. What's the difference between your Amazon cut and your website cut? So are you mainly selling on Amazon, or it's like also very balanced, just like your balance between online and retail?
Like how much are we selling between our direct to consumer website and Amazon?
Yeah.
Amazon is, if we were to look at this 60% that is digital, again, 60% would be Amazon and 40% direct to consumer. However,
very balanced business. You have a very, very balanced
well,
business.
it is, but if you look at the numbers, like Amazon is still a huge piece, right? And that's a risk factor for sure, because it is such a big piece when you look at the gross dollars. I think our direct-to-consumer business we're getting better at meta advertising, and we haven't been very good at advertising on Meta and TikTok and YouTube, and we're learning how to do that a lot better so that we can acquire customers into our direct-to-consumer line. However, I'm so happy to continue to work with Amazon. It's a fantastic business. The thing I like about Amazon the best is they just like have this dialed customer experience, and people really like to shop on Amazon. I'm an Amazon shopper myself. So, I know that if we offer a good product through Amazon, that customer will continue to purchase our product through Amazon, even though there's a lot of other our competitors on Amazon. But I'm happy to continue with that relationship, just because what an awesome experience to receive your product in 2 days, and we're also delivering just this fantastic product. That's a really cool thing. Another thing that we're doing, Victor, this year is we're actually moving to the UK, and we're moving to the UK through Amazon. So we can utilize Amazon's third-party logistics, 3PLs, right?
Yep.
To not only fulfill Amazon orders in the United Kingdom and the rest of Europe, however, we can fulfill our Shopify stores orders through that Amazon 3PL.
That was going to be my next question right away. Are you planning then, if you're moving overseas now into the UK, are you directly planning not only just to sell on Amazon, but just to go with your ecom brand directly to the UK market?
Definitely. The big reason why we want to do that is you can acquire customers on Amazon. And that's right when we first started Amazon, going back to Amazon, maybe like circa 2017. We were just getting into Amazon. We were starting to sell on something called Vendor Central.
Yeah.
So there's Vendor Central and there's Seller Central. And the big difference between Vendor Central and Seller Central is that when we have a vendor relationship, it's called a first-party relationship. So Amazon is actually going to purchase the product from you. They will then own the product, and they can set the price that they want to set. So that differs from the third-party relationship on Amazon Seller Central, where you're actually consigning product to Amazon. You continue to own that product in Amazon's warehouses, and then you can, because of that, set your price.
Yeah.
Right? So there's pros and cons. The cool thing about Amazon Vendor Central is that it's automated. You really can just ship and forget. The downside of Amazon Vendor is that they control pricing. And so if you do have this retail base or you want to get into retail, you have to be careful because they will undercut retailers. If a retailer goes on their website and they publish your product and they're selling it for $200, Amazon's going to come in and say, well, you know what, I can sell that for $190.
Yeah, because they
So
just have the quantities in general, and they can cut margins very easily. And like, in that regard, like, when did you stop having this type of relationship with Amazon?
So we started a transition in 2019.
Okay,
And the
oh,
reason why we,
that's not so long ago, actually.
it's not long ago, yes. And it was a painful transition.
What's happening? Like, how do you do that type of transition? Because you're probably typically 7 and 8 figure ecom brand owners are like watching these episodes, and
Yeah.
probably most of them are selling also on Amazon, and they're
Yeah.
thinking about this. So what's happening in this way?
So we were just thinking about it and we were starting to transition from vendor to seller. And we didn't really get into the meat of the transition until 2022. Okay. So that's where we did the full transition. That's where we had, it was a big portion of our business. So we studied it. We looked at the margin profile of Seller Central. We looked at the margin profile of vendor and really tried to do our research. So we had started transitioning just a couple products from vendor to seller in 2019 just to see what would happen. What do your unit quantities look like? What does the turn rate look like? Can you still acquire customers through Amazon advertising? All these sorts of questions that we wanted to answer. But when we did the transition and we pulled the plug and said, hey, we're going to transition everything that's on vendor to seller, everything that remains on vendor to seller, the biggest issue was that they had to continue to sell through their inventory. And vendor purchases huge volumes. So they had a ton of inventory right across their DCs. And so basically what happened is that we didn't get any purchase orders from Amazon for the better part of 9 months.
Wow.
And we had forecasted that it would only last kind of like 6 months because they purchased so much inventory. And depending on how liberally you send inventory to Amazon, sometimes they have these deals. They say, hey, we'll place a larger purchase order right now if you give us a 2%, 3% discount.
Yeah.
And
you want to do it because like it makes sense for you. Like
sometimes it does make sense depending on what your business is. If what your operating cash flow looks like, maybe you just have too much of a product in your warehouse and you're trying to make space. Those are kind of the day-to-day decisions that we were looking at and of using to evaluate whether or not these bulk purchase orders were going to make sense for us. But yeah, so we transitioned and then we basically sent stuff through this consignment third-party relationship, Seller Central, to Amazon, but we still had to sell through all of this vendor stuff. So we really saw our sales on Amazon tank, and it was painful because this monthly revenue we were so used to seeing just wasn't coming in.
What do you do then? Like, what do you do in a situation like that? Like, that's 9 months of no sales. Like, what do you do?
Not no sales, but low sales, and everything transitions at different rates, right? So you might have, one product A that sells through in a month, and so then you have that over to Seller Central, which is great, and then product B might take a little bit longer. So each of these, there's a kind of a different story to every single product line, and they were all transitioning at different times at different rates.
Oh wow!
Depending on how much inventory was there, what was the demand on that particular product. And what did it look like? Well, it was scary because the whole time we were questioning ourselves, Victor, like, oh my gosh, did we make the right
I can imagine that, like, it
decision?
sounds so scary.
And the whole time, Amazon keeps sending you purchase orders from Vendor Central. They're like, hey, like, why don't you take this juicy, like, $250,000 PO? And then they get bigger and bigger. Like, oh, hey, why don't you take this $350,000 PO? Because they're just trying to buy more and more inventory as you're drawing down lower and lower. And you really have to be like, no, I know what we're doing. This makes sense. We really examined it. But yes, there were like a few moments where we were just like in despair, like, oh my gosh. Whatever. So luckily, but in advance, we kind of thought this was going to happen. It took 9 months. We only forecasted it would take 6 months, but we kind of had built up our cash flow, our cash reserves. We were well capitalized during that period, so it wasn't like scary from that.
So
From that perspective.
if you can come up with like 3 to 5 lessons for people that want to transition from vendor to seller central, what would you say that you need to prepare for? Like, what do they need to brace themselves for in a period like that? Like, what do you look at? What do you prepare for? What are the steps before doing a step like this so you don't bankrupt your business?
Totally, yeah. I would say the first one is cash. Cash is king. So really make sure that you're well capitalized before you make that decision.
And what is well capitalized, like in your opinion? Like, was there a formula that you used for that?
We have ratios. We use a tool called Fathom. It's kind of like a financial reporting tool that we use. And so we look at, you can kind of plug in basically what your forecasted inventory purchases are going to be. It's a cash flow forecasting tool essentially. So you forecast, how much inventory am I going to need during this
How do you
period.
spell that? Is it VADDOM? Yeah, OM?
Fathom, it's Fathom.
That's
Fathom.
okay. Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
But it allows you to, the cash flow forecasting tool is pretty powerful. So you can plug in like your recurring expenses too. So like, your software licenses, obviously, your salaries, probably going to be your largest expense.
Yeah.
Advertising. So just making sure that uh, your your cash house is in order. And then, maybe you can go to the bank or Shopify Capital is another thing, although I think it's a huge ripoff. But if you can
Yeah.
get, some sort of financing somewhere else, just in case, it's always nice to have access to a line of credit even before you need it. And the bank will be more willing to give it to you if you're in a good financial
Yeah,
position too.
in a good
If
state.
you come to them
Before you
and
do
you're like,
those
I really
transitional
need this,
moments. Yeah.
they'll make you
Okay.
pay.
So, did you
So
prepare for so you prepared for 6 months with almost no sales from Amazon. So you basically had to have all the cash for the expenses that maybe they didn't move up and down. Like they were probably very stable expenses. So they didn't go down because of this. So you would say that maybe, yeah, prepare for at least 6 months of almost no sales from Amazon in a period like
you
that?
have to make the calculation for yourself. So like how much do you sell in a particular week through Amazon and how
Yeah.
much inventory do you have there? I mean, that's the simple
Okay.
calculation.
Okay.
Some products are more seasonal. So, if you have any seasonality, the cool thing about Amazon is that they will probably tell you how much they think they're going to sell because there's that forecasting tool. It'll tell you like you're within a probability of 90% you're going to sell this much. Within 95% you'll sell this much. So you can go and look at that probability forecasting tool, the inventory forecasting
So
tool,
it's a
and have a
really good
pretty good
one.
idea.
So you would say that, okay, this is something that you can rely on in terms of like
Yeah. Oh
Amazon
yeah, for
forecast.
sure. It's pretty
Okay.
accurate. I
Okay.
we definitely use that. Another thing is that ads. So like if you are running ads on Amazon, or you want to run ads on Amazon, you need to be careful because when the listing goes dark, so to speak, you no longer have inventory on a listing. You just need to make sure that you're advertising from the right console because you can advertise from Amazon vendor, and those
Okay.
ads will go towards selling Amazon vendor stock. So then you'll transition to your Amazon seller platform and then start advertising your Amazon seller
From there.
inventory. Yeah.
Okay.
So when you go out of stock of a product, your advertising will stop and become disrupted. So just the advertising piece, I don't have my head into that super well because we were working with an agency at the time who was fantastic and helped us through that transition.
Amazing. Well, these are like having cash, doing your calculations and forecasting, making sure that your ads are on point. Like that's more than enough to start off with. And since you're still using Amazon as a very main platform, I would say, for your business, like what's 2024 Amazon success like? What's the key principles? If you can tell a rookie, okay, you have a great product, you have a great brand, you want to sell on Amazon, what are the key steps here?
Yeah. A big one is don't go out of stock.
Okay.
That's a huge one.
Why?
Going out of stock on Amazon is bad because you're teaching the algorithm that you cannot be trusted. So staying in stock is fantastic from the algorithmic standpoint. They know that they can throw traffic at you, and even if you don't have a ton of inventory in the direct into the DC, at least send inventory when you're getting lower, and then you're going to teach the algorithm that, hey, these people are reliable. They seem to keep their product in stock. So that's a big thing. What we notice is that when we let one of our listings run out of inventory, the unfortunate thing is that you'll lose sales for many weeks after you're back in stock.
Okay.
So that's the first one. Another inventory play that we've learned is that having more stock leads to higher sales. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, and I don't know this for sure, but I think that when you have more inventory, the algorithm looks at you and says, we have 1,000 shoppers shopping for water filtration products today. Santevia can handle that kind of traffic, and we can actually throw 1,000 customers at them. Whereas if you don't have enough inventory, they're going to then split those 1,000 customers between different platforms, right? They're in the business of making money. They succeed when you succeed, especially because it's mostly commission based, right? So you have a fulfillment fee, you have a commission fee. So that's a big thing. Another one for inventory for sure, I think is just make sure that you have enough inventory, because that will allow Amazon to spread the inventory out to a bunch of DCs. And so the closer your inventory gets to a customer, from the consumer's perspective, the faster it gets shipped to them. So if I have our product in Vancouver's DC, Amazon DC, I might get 1 day Prime, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? But if it's 500 kilometers away, it's going to be 2 day or maybe even 3 day. And so as a consumer, if I'm looking at a product, I'm like, oh, here's like kind of two comparable water filters. I can get this one in 1 day or this one for the same price in 3 days. Obviously, I'm going to choose the faster option, right? It's just a better experience.
Okay, that's quite interesting, and that's in regards to inventory. What about marketing and sales? Like, are ads really important at the moment? You say that Amazon is now pay to play. What is like your descriptions, your listings, your subject lines? Like, how does it play right now? Because maybe the gurus are gonna tell you that, hey, it's so complex that you just need to pay us $5,000 in order to tell you all the secrets. But then there are people that are actually doing it, and they make it more simple. So what's it like right now from a marketing perspective to do well on Amazon?
Definitely. I mean, like, you have to do your keyword research. That's a big one. So go find everything that you think somebody could potentially be purchasing, every keyword that could potentially be used to purchase your product, and make a big list of them, 100, 200, and start advertising on all of them. And see which ones perform the best, and then start to whittle it down. I mean, it's like, that's classic like PPC advertising.
Absolutely.
But that's the way to do it.
That's
So
old school Google ads, I would say.
that's
Now
old
it's
school
like way
Google ads,
different,
and
but yeah.
Yeah, that's new school Amazon ads. So yeah, so definitely do that. And then do some brand defense too. Set up brand defense, and then set up some brand offense campaigns. So brand defense looks like, well, if somebody is advertising on our brand name, Santevia, it probably pays to have really high bids for that, because I don't want Brita to show up. When somebody types in Santevia. So that's awful and definitely necessary, and it's going to suck up some of your capital, but you'll win a lot of sales, because basically you're going to be protecting your traffic. And then inversely, of course, brand offense. What other products might people be purchasing when they're looking to buy a water filter? Well, Brita is like...
Is that really working? Because it
filter.
used to work a lot. It used to work a lot on Google, and like brands were doing it all the time, and they're still doing it from time to time. But like those brand attacks that are happening are not as effective as they used to be. So that's a big thing on Amazon.
It is still a big thing on Amazon. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So try it out. Sometimes for some products it'll work really well where people care. Especially ours is an education product. People really want to do their research before they'll buy a water filter, and so they're going to be evaluating different types of water filters. So brand offense works really well for us. If it were underwear, I don't know. Would it
Yeah,
work, or
yeah.
would people just want to buy underwear? I'm not sure.
Oh no, I have no idea. But in that regard, very interesting. What about descriptions and the way that you do your listing? How important is that at the moment?
Super important. Yeah, the carousel I think is actually one of the most important things. So the
Okay,
images, the image carousel. The
okay.
the thing about the image carousel is a lot of people don't read, and you should ask yourself and maybe a few friends who use Amazon, like, hey, what do you look at when you
Mhm.
buy on Amazon? Personally, when I shop on Amazon, I look at the carousel imagery and I will look at the reviews. And the bullet points I usually skip over because
Okay.
they feel marketing to me all the time, right? And I don't want to read them. So
Because
I
they
kind
are.
of know, if I'm buying a kettle, for example, I know what a kettle does, And
Yeah.
I think that a good brand, is obviously going to highlight their key features in the carousel. So make sure your carousel is super dialed and try different things. You should be trying new things in your carousel every 2 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So, or, if you don't have a lot of traffic, you can leave it for a little bit longer. But if define how much traffic you want to go across your listing
So you do
instead of
A/B
how many
testing
clicks.
basically all the time with
Yeah,
your
for sure.
products. How do you evaluate this? Is it just because you can say, oh well, the seasonality is there, or like how do you evaluate this?
Conversion rate
Okay.
is definitely the one. So they basically have like a metric that's called click to add to cart. So basically,
Hmm.
how many people visit your listings versus how many of those people add it to their cart.
Yeah.
So I think it's called click to cart conversion rate. You'll have to check me on
Okay.
that one, but essentially that's the metric. So that's the one that we use, and we're looking at 5,000 people coming across our listing, 10,000 people coming across our listing,
Yeah.
and then we'll make that assumption. Another one is the title of the product is hugely important. So you can stuff a lot into the title of the product. And it's not like the title of the product that you would have on your D2C website. They're way
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
On a D2C website, you might have this like cool marketing title. So for
Yeah.
example, we have a
Very
product that's
clean, very sexy
yeah,
looking.
totally,
Yeah.
right? And it's like it's cool because it's in within the context of your website, and you've
Yeah.
got your header and you've got your whatever. It's not like that on Amazon because you've got the competitor's product right above you, and you've got
Yeah.
another competitor's product right below you, and on the left and on the right. So stuff that keyword with everything that you think is valuable. So we have our brand name in there, we have the product name, but we also have the size of the product. So we might say 9 cup pitcher. We'll definitely say mineralized and alkaline in there. We might throw in some other stuff like adds minerals or filters lead, things that we think people might be searching for.
Triggers.
Totally.
Basically, these are all triggers for like, yeah, this one it says that it adds minerals, the other one doesn't say it. It maybe adds it, but it's not in the title. So you go to the one that says it.
Exactly. Yeah, we call them scroll stoppers. We're
Yeah.
looking for things to stop people from scrolling past our product. And that's a big one. Changing titles can be a little bit tricky on Amazon.
Mhm.
So
Does it
you
change
might
your
have
listing, like your SEO score? Like, what does it do?
it's actually the like having the changes take effect is what can sometimes be difficult. So if you have for example, 2 people selling on the same listing, you might not have the authorization or the right to change the title.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to be a little bit careful with that. If you have like a novel, unique product, you might not have that issue so much. When you change the title, it will actually change. But going back to we had been talking about Vendor Central and Seller Central a
Yeah.
little bit earlier. So often, Amazon thinks Vendor Central is a different company than us. Like we're like
Yes.
obviously the same company, but they
Yes.
think okay, there's 2 different accounts that sell Santevia, like 2 major accounts, and so sometimes when we try and to change a title on Seller Central, they're like, no, 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 and so then we have to jump into the Vendor Central console and change the title. You know, so it's just it can be a little bit spooky like that, but it will happen. You'll always run into these little hiccups on Amazon, so you have to hit up their support team, which can be very difficult.
Yes. Like
Yeah.
that's nothing that you want to have any business with. Having said that, would you say that, yeah, a normal brand, would it need external help? Would you rely on external experts to do all of this for you on Amazon? Or you're like, hey, it's straightforward. If you know what you're doing, if you understand those things, you can do it on your own.
I am a huge fan of working with somebody in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you want to have somebody who has Jeff Bezos and Amazon. They have this idea of single-threaded leadership. Okay, so single-threaded leadership basically talks about, okay, if you have an objective, you want to grow on Amazon, get somebody whose entire world and job at your company is growing Amazon. And that's the
Yeah.
one thing that they do. They don't also grow your direct-to-consumer website. They're not opening up a new region. No, they grow Amazon. Um, and whatever your objective is, because that's going to get that person to like really absorb. Pair that person with an agency. If they don't know, if you have an expert, that's fantastic. But more often than not, I find e-com companies and new brands don't have an Amazon expert. So get a
There
person
are
who
not too
has an
many
aptitude.
either. Yeah.
Pardon
There are
me.
not too many either. That's what it is. Yeah.
There aren't. Yeah, you can get some from agencies sometimes. But I think it's a growing profession. You can definitely find more than you could like 3 or 4 years ago for sure. But yeah, you probably won't find one. So find somebody who has an aptitude. Maybe they've done Google ads or Meta ads before.
Yep.
Get them into Amazon. Make that their entire world, and then pair them with an agency who does Amazon, specifically an Amazon focused agency. Because and we've worked with agencies in the past who like they do Meta advertising, they do Google advertising, and they're like, yeah, we could probably do Amazon. Don't
And
partner
that's not
with those
true.
people.
That's
Don't.
yeah, wasting money.
Yeah, totally don't. Find an agency that does Amazon and they have a proven track record, and call some of their customers and get some
Real insights.
references. Yeah, definitely.
By the way, what you just did was like having a growth formula for 2024 for your Amazon. You start off with it. You definitely don't want to go out of stock. You need to have even more stock so that the algorithm sees that, hey, you can actually sell. And yeah, the inventory is super, super important in that case. Keyword research, 100, 200 keywords, than doing the old PPC way of advertising them, the old Google way, and finding what's working, and working on brand defense and brand offense. Like, that's absolutely great. Then, when it comes to your product, the image carousel is hugely important, and you can play around with it and do A/B testing for it. And then the title is not the place to be sexy at; it's the place to be effective and scroll stopping. So make sure you're having better titles that are saying, that are having more important triggers than your competitors. And definitely watch your conversion rate and click to add to cart rate. Wow, honestly, like in just 10 minutes probably, you just you had a masterclass on like your growth formula for 2024. You can now probably become an Amazon guru if you want to.
Great summary. That's it. Yeah, you can. If you do that, you'll smash it.
Absolutely. So I'm definitely giving that to my team. But yeah, jokes aside, that's absolutely great. And since you talked so much about Amazon, how do you balance this out with your ecom brand? What do you do different? So on Amazon, you do all of that stuff. Like, how do you grow on Shopify?
Yeah, Shopify is different. It's content is king. You have to
Yep.
create a ton of content. If you really want to grow on Shopify or like whatever, BigCommerce, WordPress, whatever
Whatever
you're
problem.
using,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it doesn't matter as long as you know it and your team's comfortable with it. I think content and brand awareness is key if you're trying to grow. There are other brands that not that they're not trying to grow, but they're trying to grow in different ways because you can grow very effectively by increasing your average order value. Maybe you have a big customer base already. You can, work on retention
Yeah.
and keeping your customers around for longer. But we're in the space of trying to acquire net new customers. So content's king. So we're making a lot of short form video nowadays. We'll
Do you do them for
subsidize that
organic? Do you use them for organic, or you use them for ads, or you use them for both?
for both. Yeah, exactly. So what we'll do is we'll supplement the short form video with like some just static ads as well, just to round out the strategy. But we'll run everything as organic for sure. the things that seem to be performing well on organic, or things that we just think are going to perform well because we've seen ads that have performed like that in the past, we'll start to run advertisements, and then it's the same thing. Just keep cycling in content. The content life cycle is like 7 to 14 days, shorter if you're spending more on it. And yeah, just run with it, and keep killing things that aren't working. Keep putting ad budget behind things that are, and then what we're just setting this up. But something that we've kind of seen perform really well in November, December, and January is sometimes you'll have a piece of content for whatever reason that just does really well. Maybe it's from an influencer, and we do work with influencers, and that's a huge part of the strategy too.
Okay.
Yeah. I can touch more on influencers in a little bit, but yeah, sometimes you see a piece of content doing really well, but it's going to surpass your ad budget. So you have to ask yourself, like, okay, are we willing to spend way past what we had planned to spend this month on advertising? And you have to, I think, really try and be comfortable with your ad buyers, and say, okay, you can, as long as the CPAs are looking,
Yeah.
are
Good.
below this, and the ROAS is above this, and we have enough cash or whatever. So that's a big thing. Making sure that your credit cards have enough room is a big one too.
Yeah.
That's something that we've run into a bunch, is just like running advertisements, and then like we're doing so well, and like we're scaling ads, and then, oh man, your credit card gets maxed. It's the worst ever because you just kill all the momentum, right?
Yeah. And that's dying basically in Meta.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Momentum is everything there. Yeah.
So that's a big one. Short form video, we're seeing perform really well. We were advertising on TikTok a lot, but we actually transitioned most of our spend away from TikTok, and now perform mostly on Meta.
I'm actually very
Specifically,
surprised that TikTok is not developing their ad platform so well. Their momentum is completely killed, I would say. I would even claim that TikTok is working in not more than 5% of the cases for e-com brands. I would definitely not recommend it, even though the gurus are right now selling it very well as a course for you to to go through. Like, I would say that, yeah, TikTok is a little disappointing with their ads algorithm.
which is crazy. Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. It's crazy because I don't know if it was like in the news in Europe, Victor, but like in North America, like TikTok was the big bad menace on the street, and
Yeah.
everybody thought TikTok was going to come and destroy a generation.
Yeah.
And you had uh, like just government officials like being like, "Oh, TikTok's the worst.
Yeah,
You
'cause
shouldn't
it's
have one on your
Chinese.
phone." Yeah, like whatever. And you had a near immediate response from Meta launching Instagram Reels, YouTube
Yep.
launching YouTube Shorts, just in response. And I would say now it looks like I actually think we're gonna have a Vine moment where like TikTok could die or be a lot smaller. Like,
I can claim it for the ads world that it's not working so well. So they couldn't build a platform that is sophisticated enough to cover the needs of the advertisers, or at least the e-com advertisers. Because I'm not really sure how it's going with awareness campaigns and so on. Because I'm not really into those. But I would say that for ads, it's definitely still not there, and they're way off of Facebook or Google. They're nowhere near. In regards to a Vine moment, I wouldn't put it there. I'm seeing that the Gen Zs around me, they're not searching on Google anymore. They're just searching through TikTok, and that's it. And I would say that, yeah, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram definitely were able to pivot very, very well. That was one of their most successful pivots, was their short form reels and shorts. They did it correctly, and they saved the day, because they could have died. Especially Instagram could have died easily because of that. But they did manage to pull this off. So it's quite interesting. I don't know where it's gonna go. What do you
The
think?
reason why I think it's gonna have a Vine moment is because, advertising is the business. And if there's no business there, and they can't convert, and you know what? Maybe the generation grows up and it's the Gen Zs, and they, they're
They kill us.
Yeah, well,
In that way.
maybe they start to earn more money, and if they stick
Yeah.
around, then they'll have more disposable income, and that could be a good thing. But I think TikTok, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Okay, that's an interesting opinion. I'm like, it's definitely having like it's arising questions in my mind. And you mentioned influencers, and that's a big topic right now. Influencers are sometimes very expensive. Influencers sometimes are, yeah, underperforming. So, what's your formula of how do you use influencers in a way that it's actually profitable for you and your business and is bringing more than taking away?
Yeah. So influence, you're right. Like we'll work with 10 influencers, and then
Hmm.
one to two influencers will do well. The other ones won't. So, in our experience working with influencers, sometimes you'll like work with an influencer and they'll say, I want $10,000 or like $5,000 for a post,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Like right away, just say no.
Yeah.
And often they'll say like, please speak with my agent, because a lot of influencers with like over 100,000 followers are working with agencies, as you might expect them to. Totally not worth it. You have no idea what you're buying. You have no idea how receptive their audience is. And these are like we work primarily with influencers with fewer than 250,000 followers. So this is kind of
Hmm.
like, we're not, I don't have a great knowledge about like what it would be like if you wanted to work with Joe Rogan.
Yeah, yeah, but it's a completely different game. Like most brands cannot
Yeah,
afford anything like this. Like we have the budgets for something like this is like 100, 200, $300 per video. Like it's most of the brands won't spend like $50,000 for someone to just say, "Hey, this is a great thing for you."
totally. Yeah. So, right around $1,000 is what we're happy to spend.
Hmm.
$1,000, sometimes less, sometimes a
Yeah.
little bit more, but not ever
Okay.
too much more. And
What do you put inside of that? Like for what? Like what are you buying with that $1,000? Let's say.
we'll buy a video. We'll have full rights to that video.
Okay.
We will also have whitelist ability on that video.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Very important step. Okay. So
Yeah. So
you do that as well. Cool.
100%. Yeah. So whitelisting videos, super effective sometimes,
Yeah.
but sometimes super effective. So
So
sometimes it doesn't go super well, and that's okay. But you can cut, so just always make sure that's part of the contract. And I know people say, like, some influencers, they'll say like, you can only have access to my content for a year. I
yeah.
say often no. Like, we want it forever. We won't work with
Yep.
you. And it's not just because like we just don't have it set up that like we're not going to remember in a year to like remove this from
Yeah, and then they'll come
our
back
ad
and they'll want
library.
money. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and you know what? Most people most influencers are okay with that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we probably won't advertise on it in a year anyways.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but it's
so
also like
that's a big
for
thing.
them just being like so picky with their content, it's like good for them to have like a more of an open relationship rather than just be like, oh, like you're using my content, so you have to be like it needs to be a mutual like thing. It shouldn't be like you're taking away from me, so I'm giving you this on a loan. No, I'm buying
Totally.
this. I'm not yeah, borrowing it.
Yeah, and we'll take the same content and we'll cut it up 10 different ways, and it'll turn
Yeah.
into 10 different ads, right? So,
Yeah.
and we might actually cut in our own material if we find that the influencer didn't do a good job explaining something. They might have said something that made sense, but they didn't show it. So we
Yeah.
actually might cut in our own B-roll to show
Of
what they're
course.
saying more effectively.
Of
So that's been
course.
a big thing for us. But the coolest thing about influencers, and the reason why I like to work with influencers at Santevia, is because we have a value proposition, right? We have
Hmm.
something that we're selling to people. We create great tasting water, and it's good for your health, and it tastes great too. That message can be hard to swallow um, when it comes from a brand.
Yeah.
However, if you have an influencer who has a following, they want to listen to that influencer and they trust the influencer. So if you teach that influencer your value proposition, or you teach them your problem solution, hey, water isn't very clean, you should
Yeah.
filter it. By the way, there's this thing that filters contaminants and adds minerals. If you can teach them to say that, whatever your value proposition is, the audience will be automatically more responsive. And when an audience is more responsive, they convert better, they have a better experience because they feel like they're a part of a group. And so that's just the fantastic thing about working with influencers and specifically whitelisting too, right? Because when you whitelist, you're advertising to their audience.
Yep.
The quid pro quo, of course, is that the influencer is getting some income because they've sold you their services. Not only that, but we like to provide a commission. The commission's cool because we find when we provide a commission to influencers, they jump into the comments and they're trying to sell.
Yeah. Okay. That's quite interesting. That's something that I haven't done with whitelisting. That's probably something that I'm gonna try out and do right away. How do you track this? Do you have a promo code that you're using, or you're using some types of like UTMs or like specific product pages? How do you track this?
We track it in two ways. The legacy way that we used to track it, and we still track with some of our influencers this way, is through a UTM link, and then we'll just look in Google Analytics. So that's one way. The other way is Shopify has a platform now that basically allows you to create coupon codes that you can provide to influencers. And so you can use that too. I like that method more because it actually automatically calculates the commission and pays out to the influencer, which is nice, especially if you're working with many influencers and if they're small. Because their commission payout might be somewhere between like...
We're using something like Snowball for like the influencers that were doing, like, I think Snowball was like the platform that we used for commissions. But yeah, I don't know what you're using, but yeah. There's so many right now.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's a big thing that we're using right now.
Okay, I think that that's very valuable. Just because you brought so many things. First of all, your success rate is like between 10 and 20% out of an influencer. So you need to calculate this. Don't put all your money in like one or two influencers, because the chance of this working is like up to 20% if you know what you're doing, basically.
And when we're budgeting for it too, Victor, it's important. Like if you want to spend whatever it is, like if you're spending $10,000 or $100,000 a month, make sure that a portion of that is. We actually calculate generating the content, the cost of generating content into that ad budget. So that way we can give it to our marketing and digital team and be like, hey, here's the total amount you can spend.
They
However,
need to
you
be
have
very
make sure that you
smart
get
with
content
it.
out of that too.
Yeah, they need to be very, very smart with it then.
Exactly. And we have a smart team and they're good at doing that. So that's a big thing. We also work with, we produce creator generated content. So these are not influencers, but they're making videos as if they are a user of the product, a customer, right? So that's been really successful for us too. Because it's not nice for our team to have to create that content in-house. You're always seeing the same faces, which isn't good. You tire out your audience. And some people are aspiring influencers and they're just not quite there yet. So this is a great way for them to supplement their income as they're growing their channel or profile.
Okay, so you're doing so many different things. And as a marketer myself, I gotta say that like you're doing a really good job from what you're telling me. So, okay, give coupon codes to the influencers, so making sure that they're making money out of this. Definitely have them sign up for whitelisting. Make sure that you have the raw content so you can edit it the way that you want, because sometimes they will just mess it up. And make sure you have all the rights for the footage in any way and form that you want to use it, because otherwise you're losing lots of money potentially with this, and it could be just the chances of this not working is going to be bigger. Okay, like again, a second formula that you just came up with during this episode, and because I see that we're almost hitting that 1 hour mark, and I'm always asking my guests a little bit more personal questions into what their daily routine and what they do in their lives is inspiring them, and so on and so forth. I had so many other questions for management and building internal marketing departments and so on, but maybe we'll leave it for a second episode with you. That's not going to be about Amazon and influencers, but more about internal structures, because I can see you going there a lot. But for you, I see that you were this person that has traveled around the world. You've done so much. You've experienced so much. Before the episode, we were talking about running and cycling and all of this. For a person who's climbed the ladder, you're now the CEO of the company. What do you think are like the most important key elements for your growth? Where do you like, yeah, what would you say that got you to the position that you're at the moment?
I think the biggest thing, I'm definitely not the smartest person. I've met a lot of people who are smarter than I am, but I can compete on working hard.
Okay.
Work hard, no matter what you're doing. Commit to it. Be realistic about like how hard you're working, and see if you can turn that up. Work-life balance is definitely a thing. But if you look at the greats, there's no such thing as work-life balance. I don't prescribe that. I think you should have a semblance of work-life balance, but you got to work hard. So that's a big thing, working hard, and then learning to learn. Because I went through school, went through university, and like I totally don't think I knew how to learn. I really learned how I learn and how to really dedicate myself and do my own research and commit and get into this deep learning mode through programming. Because my first job was kind of in this data management space in commodities, and I didn't know how to program at the beginning, and I needed to know how. And so sitting down for like literally took me like 3-4 months of just my own time every single day, Friday nights, Saturday nights, learning how to program was a big thing. And it actually gave me the confidence myself that, hey, you know what, I can commit to learning something.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done something like that in your life, commit to something and learn it. And you're going to give yourself a lot of confidence to be able to do
Amazing.
that.
Okay. What's the most fascinating book that you've read? Could be like something very random that actually got you to the position or got you to be the person that you are today, and why?
I like to read actually. I I just wrote this. I just read this book that was really good. The most recent book I finished was Play Nice But Win. It's the story of Michael Dell.
Okay, yeah.
So Michael Dell, of course, we all know Dell Computers.
Yeah.
But just like listening to his story, that was really cool. He's a guy who works hard. Man, he works
Yeah.
the hardest. So that was super nice to read. I'm a huge fan of reading business books generally. I'm reading a book about Walmart and the Walton family. So that's really interesting. But my favorite book is totally just a classic, has nothing to do with business. It's called East of Eden by John Steinbeck.
Yes, okay.
I think we've all heard of Grapes of Wrath, but I think East of Eden is the better book. So that's
Thank you. You're the first person that is mentioning non-business books on this podcast, and I just really want to say thank you for this because I feel like in the world of entrepreneurship, sometimes we just need to be people and to be human and understand human psychology, not from business books, but from the real world and from novels and everything around it.
totally. It's a huge portion of being in a management position is you're a people manager, right? You're
Yeah.
actually transitioning from doing things to working with people. So yeah, you have to kind of connect with that. And I think like, the classics are a great way to just see human psychology, human behavior at just the most basic, at the most raw. So yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so that's your favorite book, and what are your favorite people to follow and to just get inspired by or just learn new stuff from? Who do you follow for that?
I'm a Twitter head. It's great, but it's also awful. X now. But
Yes.
so sometimes it can be poisonous. Sometimes my partner comes over and she says, "Ah, you gotta put that down."
Yeah.
But I follow a lot of people. I like to follow the big ones. Like obviously, I'm really into Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I follow politicians, and I just like to see what's going on. I use it for news. That's really
Yeah.
how I stay connected. But I'm a huge podcaster, actually, or like podcast consumer. So I listen
Yeah.
to a bunch of different podcasts. Yeah.
Okay. that's interesting. For the e-com world or the D2C world, who are you following? Or what podcast are you following?
For ecom, I really like the Founders podcast.
Yeah.
I like that. This is like kind of like more Silicon Valley-esque, but I like the All
Yeah.
In podcast.
Okay, yeah.
The All In podcast. I think it's just like those guys are clowns, so they're awesome. They're a lot of fun. It's fun to listen to that one. But yeah, the Founders I think is really nice because it's kind of teaches you about stories and dives into the stories of particular founders, authors, business people, sometimes politicians, historical figures. So like, it's a cool way to learn about history. I'm a fan of that one. But
Amazing.
also, I listen to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I also listen to Lex Friedman. So two kind of like two ones I like to. I pick and choose because I'm not a huge. I don't listen to like a lot of this like fight or sports related ones, but I
Yeah.
do. Sometimes you draw some big names. Jeff Bezos was on Lex Friedman pretty recently, so that was such a cool podcast.
Lex is doing a really good job with this. Like Lex
Yeah,
is
he had Benjamin
is a great.
Netanyahu on too. Like that was crazy. He draws big names.
Yeah.
I was really impressed.
He knows how to ask questions as well. Like
Yeah,
he has
he
this
does.
reputation. But yeah. Well, honestly, I'm a little like I just want to continue this podcast for maybe an hour more, but we have to cut it here. But I'm reserving my right to ask you for episode number 2
Love
for
it.
a second one, because I think that we can just continue to talk about how to be the good manager that builds the company and the company culture, and then how to make this an internationally recognized business and succeed with it. Because I think that nowadays, especially the younger guns that are entering the e-com market, they just believe that they have to take a product, they need to advertise it, and that's a business. And that's completely wrong. Like, your business has a story behind it, your business has a foundation behind it, it has a structure, it has all of these elements that are well thought, and it's not just a gimmick where you just run an ad and you become successful, even if initially that's the case. That's still not a business. You were lucky for 3 to 6 months, but you basically don't have anything behind it. So I think that the world should listen to people like you a little bit more and be quiet about the ones that make quick bucks and become like someone that's important, I would say, on TikTok or Instagram. So Matthew, really thank you for this. What you share was invaluable, and that's the whole idea of our Two Ecomm Experts podcast.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Stay tuned.